Decisions, decisions, decisions. Every day we make hundreds of them. What to wear, what to eat, what to say, and even what to believe. And right now you've just made another one. You clicked on this video. You could have been scrolling through Netflix or playing a game, but instead you chose to be here. That one small choice might just change how you make every other decision from now on. So grab a pen and a notebook, or just open your notes app, because what you're about to hear could reshape the way you think, act, and decide, from the tiniest choices to life-changing ones. Let's begin. The rules of choice have changed. The advice your parents grew up with can't solve the overload of options, noise, and shifting values we face today. In this chapter, we'll look at how the digital age rewired decision-making and how to reclaim clarity when the world keeps updating faster than your instincts can follow. Stop for a second and think about the last big decision you made. Did you pick that college major because you loved it or because an algorithm told you which careers were hot? Did you choose your partner through family introductions or through swipe number 247 on a dating app? Welcome to the 21st century decision jungle. Our parents and grandparents never had to navigate it, and that, right there, changes everything. The ground beneath our feet has moved. The decisions available to us today didn't exist a generation ago. Which device to buy, which online identity to display, which influencer to believe. None of this existed when older generations built their frameworks for life. That's why asking your elders for advice often feels like trying to use a paper map in a city that updates itself every hour. The terrain is moving faster than traditional wisdom can redraw it. It's not that our parents and mentors aren't wise, they are, but the variables have changed, the economics are different, the opportunities are different. Even human behaviour, filtered through technology and attention economics, has mutated. And brutally honestly, the elders can't always recognise the new terrain well enough to guide us through it. The advice gap. Younger generations sense this gap instinctively, so we look sideways instead of upward, to peers, to social media feeds, to podcasts, to anonymous Reddit threads. We don't ask one wise elder anymore, we crowdsource our choices from thousands of strangers. That feels modern, but it introduces a new danger. We're collecting answers without learning process. Too many people want shortcuts. How do I find the perfect relationship? Which career will make me rich fastest? What stock should I buy right now? But decisions work like muscles. You can borrow someone's answers, but you can't borrow their judgment. The real power lies in learning how to think, not what to think. The decision maker's toolbox. Here's the truth no one teaches in school. Decision making is a skill, not a talent, not luck. A trainable mental craft just like carpentry, cooking, driving, or computer programming. Every professional, plumber, electrician, surgeon, has a toolbox. Without their instruments, even the best of the technician is helpless. Similarly, in decision making, you also require some tools. Yet most people walk through life facing the most complex decisions imaginable with no trained method and no tools. No wonder so many adults feel lost even while appearing successful. The economics of good judgment. If you look closely, the people at the top of every field, politics, tech, entertainment, medicine, earn their wealth not because they work harder, but because they decide better. Executives and founders get paid astronomical sums not for typing faster or running longer hours, but for taking responsibility for complex, high-impact decisions. The world pays a premium for judgment. Always has, always will. And yet, in most traditional education systems, we teach students to execute instructions, not to formulate them. We train worker bees, not decision makers. Then we act surprised when only a few rise above the crowd. The genuine big money, as harsh as it sounds, lies in mastering the skill the majority ignore. Decision architecture. Life is a constant series of forks. You don't need to be a CEO to face life-defining choices. By the time you finish your 20s, you've already decided, or at least drifted through, hundreds of forks in the road. What to study, which city to live in, whom to love, whether to stay, switch, double down, or quit. Each decision tilts the rest of your timeline. Each one compounds, shaping who you become and what possibilities remain open. So even if you never run a company, you are the CEO of your own trajectory, and the same decision-making principles that drive the best businesses apply to your personal life too. Decision fatigue, the hidden tax of modern life. Here's another reason the modern landscape feels heavier. There are simply too many options. Our grandparents may have had one local college to apply to. We have thousands worldwide. They had one or two career templates. We have dozens of freelance ecosystems. They chose partners within their community. We swim in global dating pools filtered by apps. Choice expands freedom, but it also drains attention. Each added option steals a drop of energy. Soon we're drowning, not in scarcity, but in abundance. Psychologists call this decision fatigue, that slow, invisible slide in decision quality as your brain burns through the day's mental fuel. By nightfall, you're scrolling autopilot, settling for whatever Netflix serves first. That's the background radiation of modern life, and it's happening to everyone. Why nobody teaches this? If decision-making is so vital, why isn't it taught? Because the less autonomous you are, the easier you are to sell to, manage, and influence. When you don't understand how decisions actually work, you buy shortcuts. Financial, romantic, political, spiritual. Someone, somewhere, always profits from the confusion. A distracted society is an exploitable society. So rather than conspiracy, let's call it inertia. Society rewards consumption, not contemplation. Schools produce employees, not independent thinkers. It's not evil. It's just outdated. But unfortunately, outdated templates can ruin modern careers and modern relationships. Building your own blueprint. Think of your mind as an engineer's lab. Every problem life throws at you, relationships, career, health, creativity, responds to applied decision principles. Once you master the formula, you can change the variables and still reach a sound outcome. Just like in algebra, if you know the formula a squared plus b squared plus 2, ab equals open parenthesis, a plus b, close parenthesis squared, then when a or b changes, you can still predict the result. Decision-making works the same way. Once you grasp its structure, risk analysis, timing, trade-offs, bias recognition, you can handle new challenges without panic. The tools stay constant even if the terrain keeps shifting. The formula of the new age. In this new era, smart decisions require 3 ingredients. 1. Awareness. Seeing the true variables around you instead of clinging to outdated advice. 2. Tools, using clear methods to evaluate, compare, and project outcomes. 3. Courage. Executing the decision without paralysis, even when nobody else understands it yet. Lack one of these and you drift. Master all 3 and you design your own life instead of renting someone else's template. Where this series takes you. This audiobook isn't a list of quick hacks, it's a workshop on mental engineering. Over the next chapters, we'll talk about why being a fan clouds your judgment, how hidden biases trick even brilliant people, how to separate real intuition from emotional noise, and how to build a system that turns uncertainty into advantage. You'll learn why fewer decisions lead to better outcomes, why delayed gratification multiplies wealth, and why the calmest minds make the most profitable moves. Each chapter gives you one more tool, a conceptual wrench or screwdriver for your decision-making kit. By the end, you'll be able to take control of career, relationships, money, and mindset with the same confidence that experts wield in their fields. The ground beneath our feet has shifted, fast, unpredictably, and permanently. The institutions designed for our grandparents can't teach us how to navigate today's complexity, but that's also opportunity. Because if decision-making is a skill, not a secret, then anyone can learn it, and those who do will quietly outpace those who never adapt. So, consider this chapter your starting point. Take a deep breath, look around and realize the landscape of choices has changed. But with the right tools, you can stop reacting to it and start shaping it. We burn priceless energy choosing between shoes, shows, and breakfast cereals, then have none left for the decisions that actually matter. Here you'll learn how decision fatigue kills focus, why simplification boosts productivity, and how the world's sharpest minds conserve mental energy by saying no more often. The power of fewer choices, how making fewer decisions helps you achieve more. Imagine waking up one morning and discovering that someone else has decided absolutely everything for you. What to wear, what to eat, what emails to answer first, which show you'll watch tonight. For a moment it sounds oppressive, but an hour later you realize something strange. You feel light, calm, focused. Your brain isn't whirring, your head isn't buzzing. You've been gifted an extraordinary thing, clarity. Most people never experience that clarity because they burn their mental fuel on an invisible thief of productivity, decision overload. We often talk about time management, but few of us ever talk about decision management. And yet that's exactly what separates people who do extraordinary things from those who feel busy but go nowhere. Should I reply to that message now or later? And while each decision feels tiny, together they drain something irreplaceable, mental energy. This is what psychologists call decision fatigue, the subtle decline in mental performance after a long session of choosing, judging, and evaluating. By the 10th choice, your brain is no longer as sharp as it was for the first. So when you finally need to make an important decision, career move, investment, creative strategy, you're already mentally exhausted from choosing between 7 kinds of oat milk at the grocery store. Modern life has made this worse. Economists glorified freedom of choice. Marketers took that idea and inflated it until even simple daily tasks became 24 option marathons. Instead of tasting freedom, we taste confusion. They told you eat like a king for the breakfast, so just they could sell you some cornflakes. You didn't make that decision, but it was made for you. The illusion of control. We tend to believe making more decisions means being in control. In reality, it's often the opposite. Every unnecessary choice taxes the same cognitive power you need for high-quality reasoning, emotional regulation, and creativity. Ever notice how world-class entrepreneurs, military leaders, or top athletes simplify their daily routines? Albert Einstein owned multiple identical suits. Steve Jobs rotated the same black turtleneck for years. Even Barack Obama once said, "You'll see I wear only grey or blue suits." I'm trying to pare down decisions. I don't want to decide what to eat or what to wear because I have too many other decisions to make. They weren't lazy or boring. They were protecting their decision energy like it was gold, and it is. The true currency, decision energy. Every decision you make costs a bit of attention, willpower, and emotional discipline. That's fine when the decision actually matters. But when it doesn't, when you're comparing the difference between two $35 t-shirts, it's like paying rent for a house you don't live in. Let's be honest, most of us waste hours in the labyrinth of trivial decisions. Comparing flight prices for days to save $15, scrolling through streaming apps so long that by the time we pick a movie, we're too tired to watch it. Hopping between credit card rewards programs to find a 2% cashback edge, yet ignoring the energy that same time could have generated if applied to skill building or networking or rest. The problem isn't the cost of the object, it's the cost to your focus. Set your mental cutoff. Here's a practical concept you can use starting today: the cutoff rule. Decide a personal decision threshold, a financial or emotional value below which you will not deliberate. For instance, if a decision takes more than 10 minutes but has short-term consequences, I'll just pick the most convenient option. If a difference is under $20, I don't compare options. Otherwise, it's just sucking your energy and stopping you from taking big decisions. You might begin small, but each year raise your cutoff value. Why? Because as your decisions become smarter and bigger, you want your focus to scale upward too. It means you're actually growing in your life. Then there will come a time where spending on a $1,500 iPhone won't feel like nothing, because you will be taking other bigger decisions to make in your life which will increase your wealth and value. The quality-quantity trade-off. The harsh truth is this: the quantity of decisions you make daily often inversely affects the quality of those decisions. People who constantly toggle between trivial choices rarely have the sustained clarity required for long-term planning. By contrast, those who focus on fewer but more significant choices shape entire directions of their lives. Think of decision-making like physical training. Every mental rep consumes energy. What you train determines your strength. If you train only in light, trivial choices, you're conditioning your brain to skim reality rather than sculpt it. You can always spot people who make high-quality decisions. They're calmer, more selective, and their routines look almost minimalistic. They understand that energy preserved is strategy gained. Big decision thinkers. Let's flip the perspective. The people who take big, deliberate, high-impact decisions, entrepreneurs, innovators, visionary leaders, rarely squander their energy on the miniature friction of daily choice. They've automated or delegated the small stuff. They know their defaults for ordinary life so they can channel everything: attention, judgment, awareness into directional thinking. Where will my time deliver exponential returns? Where is growth hiding? A great decision maker doesn't make more choices. They make fewer, smarter ones. The correlation between strategic thinking and reduced decision clutter is profound. And yes, it's often what separates the merely busy from the genuinely successful. The Netflix phenomenon. Take a light example: Netflix overload. How many nights have you spent 40 minutes flipping through previews, reading thumbnails, watching trailers, maybe even Googling reviews, only to finally give up and rewatch something familiar? You didn't fail to relax, you over-decided yourself out of joy. The fun vanished under the weight of micro-comparisons. Now imagine zooming out. We do this every day in bigger areas: career changes, business ideas, lifestyle improvements. Our pattern of hesitation bleeds upward. That's why cutting trivial deliberation feels almost therapeutic. It reconditions your brain to trust itself again. Your new mindset: choose what deserves choice. This chapter isn't about becoming indifferent, it's about prioritizing what deserves your decision energy. Each morning ask, which decisions today actually shape my future? Focus there, pre-decide or ignore the rest. Think like an investor of attention, not a spender of reaction. Anyone can be busy deciding. Few can be disciplined enough not to. So if you truly want to achieve more, start by deciding less. Fewer, better decisions act like the backbone of a clear mind. When you declutter the small, you amplify the significant. You become the person who burns energy on meaning, not minutiae. In a world obsessed with doing more, the quiet mastery lies in deciding less and deciding well. Most people see the first effect of a choice. Master thinkers see the third and fourth ripple. In this core chapter, we'll unpack high-order thinking, the habit of tracing consequences beyond the obvious. Especially in investing, you'll learn to ask "and then what?" until foresight becomes your natural reflex. Thinking beyond the obvious, the secret of high-order decisions. Picture your mind as a chess player sitting across the table from life. Most people play checkers, simple moves, quick reactions. The high-order thinker plays chess, already picturing what the board will look like 5 moves into the future. That single habit, asking what will happen after what happens, is the difference between ordinary choices and extraordinary ones. The essence of high-order thinking. Every decision creates ripples. Ordinary thinkers see the first splash. High-order thinkers trace the waves after the splash, the second, third, and fourth consequences. Low-order thinking asks, "If I do this, what happens?" High-order thinking asks, "And then what? And then what?" That simple repetition, "and then what?" is the hidden lever of smart decision-making, especially in business, investments, and strategy. It's the mental habit that turns hindsight into foresight. The Cobra effect, when solutions backfire. Let's start with one of the most famous cautionary tales in economics, the Cobra effect. Back in colonial India, British administrators stationed in Delhi faced a deadly nuisance, cobras everywhere. To encourage locals to eliminate the threat, they launched a bounty program, bring in a dead cobra, collect a reward. For a while it worked, snakes decreased in, cash rewards went out. The officials congratulated themselves on clever policy, but then something unexpected happened. Entrepreneurs, brilliantly opportunistic locals, realized there was more money in breeding cobras than hunting wild ones. Soon, small snake farms sprang up, producing freshly minted bounty cobras on demand. When the government discovered the scheme, it abruptly cancelled the program. The breeders, now holding hundreds of worthless serpents, released them, and then the cobra population, it exploded. The policy's first-order effect was positive, reduced snakes. The second-order effect was neutral, create a side hustle. The third-order effect was disastrous, more snakes than ever than they were in beginning. Seeing the next ripple. The Cobra effect isn't just a quirky historical footnote, it's a master lesson in systems thinking. Every choice you or I make, whether in economics, business, or personal life, sits inside a web of consequences. High-order thinkers habitually trace that web. They ask, if this succeeds, who else benefits? And how might that change the game? What behaviors might my solution unintentionally incentivize? What happens after the victory lap? The mark of a master strategist isn't big vision, it's deeper vision. How high-order thinking builds wealth. The investment world is a perfect laboratory for this mindset. Most investors chase headlines. They think, electric vehicles are the future, let's buy EV stocks. High-order investors dig deeper. If EV adoption rises, which supporting industries explode? They map the layers: batteries, charging infrastructure, copper mining, supply chains, specialized components like axles or braking systems, parts every vehicle still needs regardless of fuel source. While the crowd debates Tesla's next earnings report, the high-order thinker quietly accumulates shares of the companies quietly supplying every manufacturer on Earth. The first-order thinkers get volatility, the high-order thinkers get stability, and usually a lot more money. You can apply this anywhere. If cities phase out gas stoves, what industries benefit? Manufacturers of electric cooktops, yes, but also the electric grid engineers and smart meter companies. If remote work expands, who wins? Not only video call apps, but also cloud storage providers, regional logistics services, suburban real estate firms. This is the art of seeing the secondary wave before it hits the shore. Timing. Don't be the last to notice. By the time the average person discovers a booming trend, the real profits are already harvested. When a stock graph appears in the news, when a headline declares the future is here, that future is already yesterday's trade for high-order thinkers. The market evolves through awareness stages. Early thinkers 10 to 20%. They notice the pattern forming and take intelligent, calculated positions. Late majority 60 to 70%. They notice the early thinkers' success and rush in. The rearguard 80%. They buy the story, not the reality, usually right before it peaks. If you want to understand this better, which is perhaps the most important thing you would ever learn, especially in the world of investing, you could check our other video, so you go and watch the chapter 2 in the video to understand it better, which is our mental model video. Building wealth safely and steadily happens near that 60 to 70% curve when the trend is proven but not exhausted. That's where high order analysis, not hype, decides your position. The framework, think in orders. To practice high order decision making, train this mental ladder, first order thinking. What will happen because of this? Basic cause and effect reasoning. Example, if I raise the price, profits go up. Second order thinking, and then what happens because that happens? Immediate reactions, feedback loops. Example, if I raise the price, profits go up, but some customers might leave. Third order thinking, and how might that shape the larger pattern over time? Long-term structural outcomes. Example, losing price-sensitive customers may strengthen brand exclusivity and attract a higher-end market later. When you practice this chain, your brain begins to simulate reality instead of just reacting to it. Systems versus linear thinking. Linear thinking is comfortable. It's neat, sequential, and easy to explain at dinner parties. Systems thinking feels messy because real life is messy. Actions trigger reactions that trigger surprises. Yet that's where the disproportionate gains hide. A simple mental exercise. Whenever someone says, if we just do X, problem Y will vanish, your alarm should ring. There are no isolated levers in complex systems. Every knob you twist shifts 3 others. High-order thinkers don't chase simplicity, they chase completeness. What happens if we do nothing? Here's a secret angle rarely discussed. Sometimes high-order thinking reveals that the smartest decision is inaction. Ask yourself, what would happen if I simply didn't decide yet? When everyone else is blindly moving fast and breaking things, sometimes the winning move is to wait, to gather data, watch how others stumble, and learn from the system itself. Smart investors, effective leaders, and calm parents all share that patience muscle. They understand that every action has friction. Sometimes letting the system self-correct prevents 3 new problems tomorrow. Training the habit. To build this mental muscle, you don't need a PhD in economics, you just need curiosity with discipline. Try this. Deconstruct past choices. Pick a decision from the past year, career, financial, or personal. Map out what actually happened 3 steps ahead. What chain reaction surprised you? Run micro-simulations. When facing a current choice, visualize at least 3 after effects. Write them down. Which look reversible? Which could multiply unexpectedly? Study other people's mistakes. Every corporate disaster, political debacle, or social media firestorm is a free case study in failed high-order thinking. Learn from it. No tuition required. The competitive edge. You can't see. Here's the thing. The people who genuinely think beyond the obvious won't ever announce it. And why would they? The edge only works when few recognize it. By the time an opportunity becomes public knowledge or a dinner table trend, the asymmetric payoff has already leaked out. The early thinkers are quietly reallocating capital and attention elsewhere. And yet, the real power of high-order thinking isn't just financial, it's psychological. It gives you serenity in chaos because you understand that every news headline, every market shock, every viral panic is just the first ripple in a longer pattern you're already tracking. The mindset of the unshaken. High-order thinkers rarely look backward except to learn. They're forward-anchored. They expect noise, surprises, reversals, and they've rehearsed their mental steps enough to adapt without panic. That subtle confidence, detached, thoughtful, long-range, creates not only wealth but peace of mind. Because when you understand the game beyond the current move, you stop overreacting to the board. Every great breakthrough, fortune, and revolution started the same way. Someone looked beyond the first effect. The world doesn't reward busyness, it rewards clarity of consequence. If you master the discipline of asking, and then what, again and again, you'll be playing chess while everyone else is still arguing about checkers. That's high-order thinking. The quiet, unseen magic that maximizes your gains long before anyone calls it smart. How to choose the best from a sea of options. The 37% rule of smart decisions. What if mathematics could help you pick the best option from too many good ones? It can. This lesson explains the 37% rule, the elegant formula that tells you when to stop searching and start deciding. You'll never agonize over endless choices the same way again. You know that feeling when you've sampled so many sneaker websites that every shoe looks, well, like the shoe? Welcome to the modern plague of overchoice. We're blessed with endless options and cursed with the anxiety of picking the best one. Should you grab one of the early good options or hold out for something better? And if you hold out, how do you know when to stop? What sounds like a sleepless night on Amazon has actually been studied by mathematicians for decades. The result, a surprisingly elegant rule. The 37% rule, sometimes nicknamed the marriage problem or the secretary problem. It's a formula that helps you pick the best option from a limited set without torturing yourself with what-ifs. The problem that started it all. Imagine you're hiring a personal assistant. You have 100 candidates lined up and you must hire one after each interview. No circling back. You can reject, but once you say no, that person's gone forever. So how long do you keep interviewing before you choose? If you hire too early, you might miss someone better. If you wait too long, the good ones might pass. This dilemma obsessed mathematicians back in the mid-20th century, and after endless probabilities, they found the sweet spot. The magic number? 37%. Mathematically, the constant is represented by our e, pronounced e, 2.71828, the base of natural logarithms. If you divide the total number of candidates by e, you get roughly 37%. The 37% rule. Here's the simple way to use it. If you have 100 options, reject the first 37 swords completely. Observe them carefully. Notice what good looks like, but make no commitments. After candidate number 37, hire or choose. First one who's better, then everyone you've seen before. This procedure mathematically maximizes your chance, about a 37% probability, of selecting the very best option overall. It's that simple, and that's surprisingly powerful. Why it works. The first third of your options act as your training phase. During this phase, you collect data, what great looks like, what's just average, what your personal preferences actually are. Once you've built that internal benchmark, you switch to action mode. Every new option gets compared to that benchmark, not to your insecurities. It's the perfect balance between exploration and commitment, learning first, then acting decisively. The marriage problem, love meets math. Mathematicians originally called this the marriage problem. Imagine meeting a series of potential partners one by one. You can't return to previous ones. Realistic, unfortunately. So when should you stop dating and settle down? Statistically speaking, after roughly 37% of your potential dating pool, pick the next person who surpasses everyone you've met before. Of course, love isn't math, but the principle still comforts. If you use this approach, you'll rarely feel regret. Because you've built a rational threshold, not a random guess. Let's personalize it. Say you might seriously date around 20 people in your life before settling down. 37% of 20 is roughly 7. Observe the first 7 relationships as data points. Learn your deal breakers, your non-negotiables, your definitions of chemistry and values. Then, when you meet someone who exceeds that benchmark, you'll know, not guess. How it applies. Squat everywhere. The 37% rule is delightfully universal. Shopping. You're hunting for the perfect pair of shoes and have 10 stores to visit. Window shop the first 3 or 4 without buying. Learn what price, comfort and design you value most. Then buy the first pair after that which beats your earlier favourites. Real estate. If you plan to see 20 homes, treat the first 7 as data collection. Once you see one clearly better, put in the offer. Recruiting. Interview 30 candidates. Keep the first 11 as your baseline, then hire the next one who outshines them. Psychologically, this method relieves pressure. You create a clear learning phase so you're not perpetually second-guessing. You can close the laptop or sign the contract knowing you applied a system instead of surrendering to impulse. But what if you miss the perfect one early? That's the heartbreaking part. Sometimes you will. Statistics isn't magic, it's probability. The rule offers the highest possible chance of success, but not certainty. Here's the mindset shift. The goal isn't to guarantee perfection, because perfection is the great liar in decision-making. The goal is to avoid regret loops and analysis paralysis. What truly tortures us isn't choosing wrong, it's wondering forever if we could have chosen better. Using the 37% rule lets you walk away saying, I applied the best known logic to maximize success. I made a justified decision. That's intellectual serenity, rare and valuable. Decision, fatigue, and the luxury of enough. The deeper beauty of the 37% rule is that it protects you from the infinite scrolling. The disease of the digital age. On dating apps, shopping sites, and job boards, our sample size feels unlimited. But life doesn't give infinite time. Treat your energy as the limiting resource. Cap your own sample size. Whatever the context, 20 apartments, 10 romantic prospects, 30 job applicants, define the total, apply the rule, and stop at enough. Because every minute you spend looking for something marginally better steals time you could spend living with what's already great. Real world. Example, choosing a business partner. Let's say you're forming a startup and plan to meet around 12 potential co-founders. Use the first 4 or 5 meetings to observe patterns, work habits, communication styles, personal ethics. Write notes, define the behaviours that energise or drain you. After that fifth conversation, trust the benchmark in your mind. If someone new hits those marks and maybe surpasses them, sign the papers. You'll never eliminate risk, but you'll dramatically reduce doubt, which is what really paralyses progress. The mathematical recap. For those who love the numbers, the constant read approximately 2.71828. Fraction equals on 1 over e, approximately 0.37, or 37%. Formula. Number of options, x 0.37 equals cutoff point. Examples. 100 candidates, cutoff at 37. 50 candidates, cutoff at 18 to 19. 20 candidates, cutoff at 7. You evaluate and reject the first batch outright, but use them to set your expectations. From then, pick the first option beating all prior ones. Why it feels so refreshing. Modern culture tries to sell us unlimited comparison as empowerment. In truth, it's exhaustion disguised as opportunity. The 37% rule gives structure to chaos. It says, you have permission to stop. You don't owe the universe infinite scrutiny. You owe yourself decisive peace of mind. When you apply the 37% rule, you're doing more than following math. You're reclaiming sanity. Whether it's shoes, jobs, partners, or business investments, the method trains you to balance curiosity with closure. It teaches that knowledge without action is stagnation, and action without knowledge is gambling. In a world drowning in choices, the wisest among us know when to stop looking. So the next time you're lost in a sea of options, smile and remember. Learn from the first third, choose from the rest. That's how you decide with both logic and peace. When both choices are good, the coin toss trick for clarity. Ever been 50-50 between two great paths? Here's a trick so simple it feels like magic. We'll show how a single coin toss can reveal what your heart already knows, because sometimes the sound of metal in the air is just enough to uncover your real preference. Sometimes life isn't cruel, it's confusing. You aren't torn between good and bad, you're torn between two good things. 2 job offers, 2 cities, 2 cars, 2 sweaters that both make you look suspiciously stylish. You make lists, compare pros and cons, phone a friend, open another spreadsheet, and still feel 50-50. Welcome to decision deadlock. When logic can't choose between equals, emotion becomes the tiebreaker. And for that, you only need one elegant tool, a coin. The unique coin toss. This isn't about handing your future to chance. It's about revealing what your gut already knows but your brain keeps talking over. Here's how to do it. 1. Label one side of the coin as option A, the other as option B. 2. Hold it between your thumb and index finger. 3. Toss it high enough to gleam under the light. 4. For that tiny half second when the coin spins mid-air, pay attention. Because in that instant, before gravity has its say, you'll already hope for one particular side. That whisper of wanting, that flicker of relief or dread is your real decision. Why it works. Under pressure, our conscious mind drowns in data, pros, cons, risks, reviews. But our subconscious, the part that integrates all those impressions, has usually made up its mind. The coin toss simply exposes it. You don't even need to check which side lands. The act of tossing acts like a mirror, showing the reflection of your buried preference. It transforms confusion into clarity without the drama. The key is honesty. Listen to your immediate emotional reaction, not the justifications that rush in later. Real-world use. You can use this for any 50-50 dilemma, buying 2 equally good electronic products, 2 equally good job offers, 2 creative directions for a project, even 2 vacation destinations that both sound perfect. You're not deciding with superstition. You're deciding with heightened self-awareness. The coin just gives you permission to notice it. The lesson here isn't to trust coins, it's to trust that moment of gravity-free clarity. When your logical and emotional sides finally align, the hesitation dissolves. The next time you can't choose between 2 equally good paths, flip a coin, not to let it choose for you, but to finally hear which outcome you were hoping for all along. Speak up or let it go, the quietest decision you'll ever make. There's a universal question that creeps into almost everyone's mind at some point. At work, at home, with friends, with family. Should I say what I really want, or should I just keep quiet? Maybe your boss just took credit for your idea. Maybe a friend crossed a line. Maybe your parents or partner said something that stung. Your inner voice shouts, say something. But your practical mind whispers, keep quiet. Don't make it worse. This tug of war between honesty and silence is one of the most emotionally loaded forms of decision-making. Because what's at stake isn't just the outcome of a conversation, it's your sense of self-respect. So let's unpack it clearly and, as always, rationally. Why we hold back. When you pause before speaking up, ask yourself honestly, what am I afraid might happen if I do? Most people, when they strip away the excuses, land on the same answer: fear of loss. Loss of approval, loss of status, loss of comfort, but most often, loss of income or opportunity. You bite your tongue at work because you fear losing the promotion. You tolerate ignorance in a meeting because you fear being labelled difficult. You let a friend walk over you because you fear breaking the friendship. If $500,000 suddenly landed in your bank tomorrow, be honest, would you still stay silent in that meeting? Probably not, because the real chain around most voices is financial dependence. The modern example: job security illusion. The pandemic years taught the world something sobering: loyalty doesn't always equal protection. Thousands of employees were laid off over short video calls, polite faces on screens saying, "We're sorry, this was not an easy decision." People who had stayed quiet, who worked weekends, who went the extra mile to please superiors, suddenly realized they had built silence on sand. That's not cynicism, it's clarity. Silence is not a long-term strategy, it's a survival reflex. And survival reflexes work only temporarily. The true cost of silence. Each time you swallow your words when they matter, a small part of your authenticity erodes. One day you wake up successful on paper but empty in spirit. You've probably met such people, executives, leaders, even celebrities who seem accomplished yet hollow, irritable, or perpetually restless. They did everything right, but they built their success on polite submission, not alignment with self-respect. That's why even after enormous achievement, they feel unfulfilled. Silence buys peace in the moment. It sells dignity over time. The rule of calm courage. But wait, this isn't permission to yell back at everyone. There's a difference between self-expression and emotional dumping. You don't speak up to win, you speak up to stay honest. So here's a practical template, a decision framework for the speak or stay silent dilemma. 1. Identify the power balance. Are you silent because of genuine respect for timing or because of fear? 2. Assess intent. Is the other person's behavior constructive or is it a pattern of condescension? 3. Evaluate consequences. What's truly at risk, your livelihood or just temporary discomfort? 4. Prepare alternatives. If speaking up costs you something, have you built assets, knowledge, or networks to cushion that cost? Your goal is not reckless bravery, it's earned freedom, the ability to speak truth without financial or emotional collapse. Build the foundation for freedom. If you want the ability to speak up, then you need the security to back it up. That's where money, skills, and independence come in. When you diversify income sources, invest wisely, save consistently, and build useful relationships, your courage automatically multiplies. Financial independence doesn't just buy stuff, it buys honesty. When you're not terrified of losing your next paycheck, your words become cleaner, your decisions bolder, your moral clarity sharper. It's no coincidence that people who have nothing to lose often sound the most authentic. They've detached their truth from others' approval, but you don't need to live recklessly to have that freedom. You just need a strategy. Train your voice. Here's a simple habit. Every time you wanted to say something important but didn't, write it down. Write the date, the situation, the feeling, and, most importantly, your reason for staying silent. Was it fear of conflict? Fear of authority? Fear of loss? That page becomes a mirror. Over time, it will reveal your recurring fears, and that's where true improvement begins. When you confront those fears on paper, they stop being vague shadows and start becoming solvable problems. You're the mind as a child. Think of your mind as a child craving acknowledgement. If every time that child cries, you tell it to sit quietly, it grows confused and anxious. Eventually, it learns that its emotions don't matter. Adults do the same thing internally. We repress truth for acceptance, and one day we can't recognize our own voice. That becomes emotional numbness, even trauma, the invisible wound of lifelong politeness. You can achieve wealth, respect, even fame, but if your voice feels muted, the taste of success turns to dust. When speaking up is worth it. When the issue affects your self-respect or boundaries. When silence would make you complicit in harm or deceit. When your opinion, even unpopular, could improve things. And when not to. If it's just about being right, let it go. Some moments deserve your dignity more than your dialogue. Speaking up doesn't mean dominating the room, it means aligning your outer voice with your inner truth. Freedom through preparation. The ability to speak freely grows out of preparation, not personality. Build your practical independence, education, passive income, investments, meaningful networks. Every step toward competence pushes fear a little further away. The less you need approval, the freer your voice becomes. That's the adult version of confidence, not volume, but self-reliance. In every conversation that tempts silence, remember this: you will almost never regret speaking up, but you will almost always regret remaining silent. So when you feel that familiar hesitation, pause, breathe, and ask, if I were already secure, what would I say right now? That's your answer. Say it calmly, kindly, once, and move on. Because the goal isn't to win arguments. The goal is to walk away unburdened, knowing your voice didn't vanish under the weight of worry. That is the quiet freedom of decisive living. The focusing illusion. When one detail blinds the bigger picture, one bad review, one missed view, one minor glitch, and suddenly the whole experience feels ruined. That's the focusing illusion at work. We'll reveal how to zoom out, see life in full scale, and stop letting single moments hijack entire decisions. Have you ever seen someone ruining a perfectly good day because of one detail that didn't go exactly right? Like a minor delay, a rude comment, or the wrong hotel room view? You're not alone. Human beings are champions at magnifying the small and forgetting the whole. Psychologists call it the focusing illusion, the tendency to overvalue one particular aspect of an experience while undervaluing everything else. Or, put simply, whatever we focus on feels larger than it really is. A holiday in Paris. And a fight about a window. Imagine someone went to Paris to have a view of the Eiffel Tower, but when you arrive, the tower-facing room was double booked. The manager apologizes and moves them one floor lower. They can still see the Eiffel Tower from the balcony or from practically every cafe on that street, yet they are furious. And they have to go to the tower to see it from close and get their pictures clicked. Everything will be done at that place only, but they sulk, complain, and spend the first evening arguing about refunds instead of exploring. 2 days later, they fly home, angry, drained, convinced the trip was spoiled. And when they tell the story later, what do you remember? Not the croissants, the evening strolls, the laughter, only the missing view. That's the focusing illusion in its cruelest form. You shrank an entire city of wonders into one narrow disappointment. How everyday life shrinks the frame. We all do versions of this. A bump in morning traffic makes the whole day terrible. One tense conversation overshadows an entire week of decent progress. A single negative comment online outweighs hundreds of kind ones. Our attention is a spotlight. Whatever it illuminates looks like the whole stage, but life is a panorama. We just forget to pan the camera. When you let a single element dominate, money, beauty, approval, convenience, you start making distorted decisions. People choose jobs only for salary, partners only for looks, houses only for status symbols, and later wonder why contentment didn't come with the package. Why the brain does this. The focusing illusion is part of our survival software. In ancient life or death situations, zooming in on the immediate threat helped keep us alive. In modern contexts, that same tunnel vision makes us miserable. Our default programming exaggerates intensity and minimizes context. One minor inconvenience flashes red like danger. The brain mistakes irritation for catastrophe and starts scripting drama where there's only delay. The why. Test. The simplest antidote is a question toddlers ask instinctively. Why? Each time you feel locked onto one point, one argument, one object, one desired outcome, ask, why am I giving this so much weight? What broader purpose does this serve in the bigger picture of my week, my year, my life? If the answer feels flimsy, congratulations, you just spotted the illusion. Try it right now. Why are you listening to this audiobook? Maybe curiosity, personal growth, boredom. If you discover multiple reasons, your decision is balanced. If you find only one because it attracted my attention, you're probably caught in a narrow focus. So whatever big things you do, life from your career to your spouse, you should have big, good, multiple reasons for that choice. Marketing's favorite trick. Entire industries are built on weaponizing the focusing illusion. Advertisers zoom your attention onto one glowing benefit, whiter teeth, faster phone, bigger screens, while quietly steering you away from cost, time, or necessity. They narrows the frame until it feels irresponsible, must not to buy. The moment you widen perspective, does this solve a real problem or just itch desire? The spell breaks. The magic trick loses its power once you understand where the magician's other hand is hiding. The magician's analogy. Think about actual magic shows. The performer distracts your eye with a bright scarf or a dramatic gesture while slipping the card into his pocket. You gasp because you were meant to. Understanding the trick doesn't kill wonder. It saves you from gullibility. In daily life, illusions aren't performed by stage magicians. They're performed by headlines, timelines, and our own emotions. Learning the principle lets you keep the awe and lose the gullibility. Cinema, sound, and sensation. Ever noticed how even an average movie feels larger than life in a theatre but only okay at home? That's the focusing illusion engineered perfectly. Cinema surround you with darkness, thunderous sound, and collective silence. Your brain fuses all that sensory input into one overwhelming focus, the film. At home, with light leaking in, kids walking around, and your phone buzzing, the frame widens so the art feels smaller. This isn't manipulation, it's physics of attention, but it teaches a vital lesson. Context enhances focus, focus distorts context. Recognizing that duality helps keep emotions proportional. How the illusion warps major decisions. People often switch careers, move cities, or marry based on one seductive factor. That job pays more, ignoring boredom or values mismatch. That city has beaches, ignoring cost of living. That person is charming, ignoring compatibility under stress. Months later, they wonder, why doesn't happiness feel the way I pictured it? Because happiness, like the Paris trip, is panoramic. Reducing it to one highlight guarantees distortion, before life-altering choices challenge your spotlight bias. What else might matter as much as this headline factor? The 10-minute reframe. Here's a practice that keeps perspective flexible. 1. List the irritant. Write what's bothering you right now. 2. Zoom out by time. Will this matter in 10 days? 10 months? 10 years? 3. Zoom out by scope. Who else besides you is actually affected? 4. Zoom out by gratitude. What's still working fine around it? Nearly every daily annoyance shrinks under that lens. The mind calms. Decisions regain proportion. The happiness formula: adjustment. Economist and Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman, the man who coined focusing illusion, summed it up brilliantly. Nothing in life is as important as you think it is while you are thinking about it. It's not dismissal, it's balance. The next time anxiety spikes around one issue, remind yourself, this matters, but it's not everything. That small sentence is emotional armor. Freedom from manipulation. Once you know the focusing illusion exists, you begin to see the gears behind persuasion. You stop reacting to single-issue outrage, viral drama, or FOMO marketing. Politicians can't bait you easily, influencers can't guilt you subtly, and advertisers can't hypnotize you noiselessly. Awareness restores agency, because you finally control where your spotlight shines. Life will always hand you details that beg for attention. The wrong hotel room, the slow commute, the missing compliment. Choosing which details deserve energy is the essence of wise decision-making. Understand this and you become untrickable. Control your focus and you control your emotional economy. So the next time the world tries to magnify a single dot, pause, zoom out, and remember, your happiness is the whole canvas, not one spot of paint. Are you making decisions based on trust? The illusion of just trust me. You've heard it 1,000 times. Trust me. Trust me, this stock will double. Trust me, this course will change your life. Trust me, everyone's doing it. Those two words can either save time or cost everything, because the moment you let trust replace thinking, you hand the steering wheel of your life to someone else. Two possible meanings behind trust me. When someone leans on that phrase, one of two things is happening. 1, they don't think you can understand the full picture, so they bypass explanation. You're too slow for details, just believe me. 2, something about the offer won't survive close inspection, so they distract you with confidence. It's not that all trust me people are crooks. Many simply know that most of us see the world in black and white. If one small flaw shows, we reject the entire idea. So they hide the grey to protect the sale. Either way, you lose clarity, and clarity is the foundation of sound decisions. Why trust-based decisions feel comfortable? Trust relieves effort. It feels safe and quick. Why research if someone else already knows? Because that convenience comes with a hidden cost: responsibility transfer. When you decide purely on trust, you also prearrange a scapegoat. If it fails, you can sigh, they misled me. But that attitude keeps you powerless. The real growth happens when you can say, I chose, I misjudged, and I learned. Ownership turns mistakes into wisdom. Blame turns them into repetition. The equation of good decision-making. Think of decision-making as a 3-part equation. Decision equals wisdom plus knowledge plus clarity. Wisdom is pattern recognition from experience, yours or others. Knowledge is verified information, the facts of the matter. Clarity is knowing where your confidence ends and uncertainty begins. When your trust me advisor skips a step, one of these variables disappears, and missing variables always distort results. 3 kinds of unknowns. Every choice operates within 3 layers of reality. 1. What you know. Simple facts, hard data. 2. What you don't know yet but can discover, information research can fill. 3. What cannot be known until time passes. Uncertainty by nature. Trust is dangerous when it blurs categories 2 and 3. You start assuming what's merely undiscovered is somehow impossible to know. That's laziness disguised as faith. Why broken trust hurts so much. Even with good intent, trust gets broken because every human view is a partial map of reality. A well-meaning advisor can still judge wrong. When people feel betrayed, it's often not by malice but by miscalculation. Yet they never examine why they misjudged. They just vow never to trust again. That's trading naivety for cynicism, not improvement. The right lesson is subtler. Learn the process once. Then you never have to outsource judgment completely again. Where trust is still necessary. Complete skepticism is impossible. Society runs on partial trust by design. You trust the restaurant staff not to poison your meal. You trust the pilot and the engineers behind every flight. You trust the other driver will stop at the red light. Without functional trust, civilization collapses. But notice something. These systems include checks and balances, training, audits, regulations. It's not blind faith, it's structured reliability. So the goal isn't zero trust, it's verified trust. Trust in big decisions. Everyday life tolerates default trust. Big decisions can't. When money, health, or reputation are on the line, understanding the mechanics is mandatory. Take investments. A friend says, "Trust me, this stock's a rocket." Ask instead, what's the data? What's the risk-reward ratio? What's the time frame and downside? In high-stakes choices, trust me is never an answer, it's an advertisement. The professional bias. Even professionals sell optimism. A barber seldom says, "Yeah, you need a haircut," if you ask them if you need it or not. A real estate agent rarely says, "This isn't the right time." They make a living by saying yes. That's not evil, it's incentive. Your job is to recognize incentives and adjust your trust accordingly. The most courageous advisors are those who sometimes say no, because no costs them business but buys you truth. Seek those people and listen closely when you find them. Lethargic advice versus real guidance. Everything looks fine, don't worry, feels comforting, but it's often laziness, not wisdom. Reality always has rough edges. If someone can't admit flaws, they're not protecting you, they're protecting the sale. Real guidance includes discomfort. It challenges, exposes downside, and respects your ability to handle nuance. Weapons of wealth destruction. In finance, some products look harmless but can silently ruin a portfolio. They behave like weapons of wealth destruction, complex instruments sold with smooth narratives and polished confidence. That's why process beats personality. If your decision process is disciplined, research, comparison, risk mapping, you may lose occasionally but never catastrophically. If you rely on charisma, one wrong leap can wipe years of effort. The 3-time luck rule. Luck forgives amateurs once, maybe twice. The 3rd time, it demands tuition. People who prosper long-term don't rely on a lucky streak. They rely on a repeatable process. Their trust rests in systems, not in slogans. How to build that process. 1. Define the goal in numbers. Vague goals invite manipulation. Specific goals invite analysis. 2. Collect unbiased information. Seek data from multiple viewpoints, especially dissenting ones. 3. Draft your own summary. Writing forces thinking. Thinking exposes holes. 4. Decide knowingly. If risk remains, own it deliberately instead of pretending it wasn't there. When the process is clear, even wrong turns become tuition for mastery, not regret fodder. Trust has its place, in the systems that earn it, not in the slogans that demand it. The next time someone says, "Trust me," answer politely, "Glad to," once I understand what I'm trusting. Because an informed yes is stronger than any blind leap. In an uncertain world, trust people's intentions, but build your own process. That's how you make decisions you can both defend and sleep on. Opportunity cost. The hidden price. Behind every yes. Every yes secretly contains 1,000 silent no's. We'll decode opportunity cost, the unseen currency that measures what you sacrifice by choosing one path over another. Once you grasp it, your time, money, and focus will become your most guarded assets. Every time you say yes to something, you're secretly saying no to something else. That's not philosophy, it's economics in disguise. Opportunity cost is the invisible math that runs through every moment of your life. The dinner you choose, the job you stay in, the weekend plan you say sure to, all of them carry unseen price tags that aren't printed in dollars but in unlived alternatives. And the faster our lives move, the easier it is to forget how expensive those unseen costs really are. The buffet metaphor. Let's start with something delicious. You walk into an all-you-can-eat buffet. Everything looks amazing, pasta glistening in olive oil, roasted salmon, tacos, curry, fresh desserts. You could fill 10 plates, but your stomach has room for maybe 2. If you pile your plate with lasagna, you're automatically saying no to sushi and tacos. That's opportunity cost, the value of the thing you didn't choose. Simple, right? But this logic doesn't stop at dinner. It governs careers, relationships, even identities. Life is the buffet. Every season of your life is a limited capacity plate. Time, energy, and focus are your serving utensils. Fill them with too many random items, and nothing tastes right. Fill them carelessly, and you starve for what actually matters. When you chase too many hobbies, jobs, or relationships, you don't just get tired, you dilute your results. Every new commitment steals from something unseen. The question isn't, what am I gaining by this? It's, what else am I losing because of this? That's the real voice of maturity. Every yes steals from another. Yes. Opportunity cost clarifies that indecision isn't free. Doing something has a cost, but not alone doing something has one too. Skip a workout today. The cost is future energy. Binge a forgettable show instead of finishing that course. The cost is delayed growth. Say yes to too many small requests at work. The cost is deep, meaningful progress on your own projects. Life continuously invoices you for both action and inaction. The trick is knowing which invoice you're actually paying. When these choices turn sour, imagine you're invited to a big party. Your mind paints an ideal scene, great music, good food, people worth meeting. You turn down a quiet evening at home, thinking the party will obviously be better. But when you get there, it's awkward lighting, bland snacks, and everyone scrolling on their phones. The night drags and you realize your actual cost wasn't gas money or a few hours. It was the peace, rest, or productivity you could have had instead at home. At your home, you could have relaxed in your cost blanket, enjoying the movie with the food that you ordered. But you can't claw that opportunity back. The emotional cost of misplaced decisions often outweighs the practical one. Avoiding the emotional shortcut. Opportunity cost thrives on impulsivity. Our instincts chase the shiny, the new, the surely this will be fun. The wiser move? Pause before acting. Ask 2 simple questions. 1. What am I choosing instead of this? 2. Does that trade still make sense after the excitement fades? This 10-second pause rewires emotional decision-making into rational pattern spotting. Taste before you commit. The ice cream principle. Picture yourself at a classic ice cream counter. Dozens of flavors gleam behind the glass. Espresso chip, rocky road, mango sorbet. The list is endless and you're paralyzed. So what do? You ask for a tiny sample spoon. That miniature bite gives you the information you need to make a confident choice. It's a low-risk experiment. A quick test of flavor before full commitment. That's a brilliant metaphor for real life. Before leaping into a massive decision, career change, investment, a new partnership, taste it first. Volunteer in that field, take a small online course, shadow someone who's already there. Those small tests are your sample spoons for life. They lower regret and sharpen instincts. These type of spoons you have to find in your life, which could help you in big decisions before making a commitment, and could be anything like taking advice from counselors, advisors, or people who are already working in that field. People who skip the sampling phase often end up with a cone they don't like melting in their hands. The cost of overgiving. This concept also explains why some of the kindest people feel most exploited. If you dedicate endless time to friends, family, or colleagues, those hours will come from somewhere, usually your own growth in your life. Generosity is beautiful, but uncalculated generosity can quietly bankrupt your energy. When you say yes to everyone, you're actually saying no to focus, reflection, and sometimes self-respect. Later, when money or recognition arrives late, those same people might mock you for laziness or bad luck, never realizing how much of your potential you gave away trying to please them. Opportunity cost is brutally fair. It doesn't care about intentions. It only counts results. The time premium. The higher your value, the higher your cost per minute. 15 minutes of an average worker's day might be trivial, but 15 minutes of a decision maker's day could shift millions. That's why learning to say no politely but firmly isn't arrogance, it's economic honesty. Protect your calendar like a financial ledger. Each yes must justify its price against your deeper goals. Using information to cut cost. Sometimes the right question saves you hours of regret. Before accepting plans, signing deals, or chasing new ideas, take one extra step. Reach out, ask, verify. Call that friend attending the party. What's it really like? Ask that colleague how the new department is actually managed. Ask the chef what's in the dish before you order. Tiny inquiries create enormous savings. They reduce the opportunity cost of ignorance. You're not being skeptical. You're being strategic. Micro versus macro costs. Opportunity cost lives on two levels. Micro level. Everyday trade-offs. How you spend your morning, your attention, your energy. Macro level life path trade-offs. What careers, cities, partners, or projects you choose over a lifetime. Get the small ones right and the big ones follow naturally because good patterns compound like interest. The small spoon, habit for life. Here's a final exercise. Before major decisions, consciously ask for your small spoon. How can I test this first at minimum cost? Thinking about investing, try a simulation or tiny amount first. Planning to move countries, stay there for 2 weeks before relocating. Want to start a new hobby? Rent the gear before buying it. Every sample spoon replaces fantasy with first-hand data. Decisions become lighter, not heavier. Opportunity cost is life's most honest teacher. It never shouts, but it always collects. You can't escape it, but you can respect it. Every moment you're trading one reality for another. Choose consciously. Taste before you commit. Don't barter long-term peace for short-term impulses. And remember, the smartest decision makers aren't the ones who chase every dish on the buffet. They're the ones who know exactly what they'll enjoy and have the wisdom to stop when the plate is full. Never be a fan of anyone. How hero worship silently weakens your decisions. Admiration inspires, worship paralyzes. This segment explores why putting anyone on a pedestal clouds judgment and how to learn from greatness without surrendering self-belief. Respect talent, borrow wisdom, but never evacuate your own thinking. Every few minutes, someone online asks, "Who's your hero?" or "Whose fan are you?" It sounds innocent enough until you realize that fanhood quietly shapes how billions of people think, vote, buy, and behave. In every corner of modern culture, from movies to politics to entrepreneurs on podcasts, we're told to pick sides and pledge loyalty. But here's the strange psychological truth. The moment you put someone on a pedestal, you lower your own ability to think clearly. And clarity is the oxygen of decision-making. Lose it, and you'll start confusing admiration with dependence. So let's strip this idea down and see how to respect people's greatness without surrendering your judgment. Why being a fan distorts judgment. When you admire someone intensely, celebrity, athlete, politician, influencer, your brain overlays their views on top of yours. You stop evaluating evidence, you start echoing emotions. Instead of asking, "Is this idea true?" you unconsciously ask, "Would my favorite person approve?" That inner substitution corrupts countless decisions. You buy what they endorse, you repeat what they claim, you defend mistakes you'd condemn in anyone else. Admiration morphs into mental autopilot. An autopilot doesn't make wise choices, it just keeps flying in the direction of someone else's agenda. Admiration versus awe. Healthy admiration inspires growth. That person's discipline motivates me, I'll learn from that. Toxic awe freezes growth. That person's so amazing, I could never be like them. One uplifts, the other diminishes. The first says, "I can learn." The second whispers, "I'll just follow." Jealousy and blind worship are two ends of the same rope. Both tie up your creative independence. Independence, not intimacy, is the soul of great decision-making. The transaction mindset. Here's a practical mental shift. Treat inspiration as a transaction, not a devotion. When you watch an actor, enjoy the performance, then leave the theatre. When you read a motivational author, absorb the insight, then close the book. The interaction is complete. You paid your ticket or your time. They offered value. The exchange is balanced. Anything beyond that, spending emotional energy defending them, stalking their controversies, fighting internet wars in their name, is energy theft from your own life. Would you call yourself a fan of your local coffee shop? You like their product, you pay, you leave? That's how maturity handles admiration. Appreciate the value, then move forward. The hidden agenda problem. Every public figure, yes, even the kind, thoughtful ones, has an agenda. Sometimes it's noble, sometimes commercial, but it exists. When you become a fan, you stop filtering their message through critical thought. Marketing experts love this. Politicians love this. Algorithms worship this. Whole industries run on adoration because devoted followers rarely ask follow-up questions. That's why you'll never hear a brand or a movement telling you, please don't idolize us, think for yourself. They need the emotional electricity of fandom to survive. Recognizing this isn't cynicism, it's intellectual hygiene. How fanhood breeds jealousy. The paradox: the same pedestal that elevates someone you adore can, with one disappointment, turn into jealousy or resentment. You expect them to live perfectly, to represent your values perfectly. When they inevitably fail, the fall feels personal. So you swing from they're flawless to they betrayed me. Both states waste your energy. Both distract from your own craft, your own progress, your own life. Staying in the productive middle. Between envy and worship, there's a balanced middle called respect. Respect says, I can appreciate greatness without surrendering my mind. Respect learns from others while keeping independent judgment intact. That's the zone of thinkers, not followers. When you like someone's communication style, jot the specific skill that moved you. Note the phrase posture or idea in a notebook, dated and specific. You've now learned instead of submitted. That's the difference between studenthood and fanhood. Fandom and decision making. Fandom narrows your mental aperture. It biases information processing. You start interpreting data to protect your idol rather than to pursue truth. This poison creeps into real-world decisions: voting, investing, hiring, collaborating. Blind loyalty blinds nuance. Good decision-making requires elasticity, the willingness to update your mind when new facts arrive. But a fan can't update without betraying their identity. That's why tribal loyalty in any form is kryptonite for clarity. The self-respect formula. To avoid losing yourself in others, keep these constants clear. 1. No ideology is a religion. Review every belief annually. If you wouldn't tattoo it on your skin forever, keep it flexible. 2. No human is above questions. The wisest leaders invite scrutiny. 3. No admiration without application. Don't just clap, imitate a habit, practice the skill and make it your own. 4. No validation. Addiction. Recognition feels nice, but purpose feels better. The energy trap. Here's the secret reason the world quietly encourages hero worship. It makes power maintenance easy. If millions pour their emotional energy into idolizing a few, attention becomes currency. Those few control narrative, and narrative controls money, markets, votes, and behavior. That's why de-idolization, training yourself to admire without bending the knee, is an act of quiet rebellion. It's how you reclaim bandwidth for your own life. Your focus is finite. Every hour spent scrolling your hero's updates is an hour stolen from building your own chapter worth reading. How to reframe admiration. When you feel amazement towards someone, pause and run this quick check. 1. What exactly do I admire, their results or their process? 2. Can I replicate the principle that led to their success? 3. Have I given proportional attention to developing my own version of it? This turns admiration into study. You're not kneeling, you're analyzing. The energy now builds outcomes for you instead of likes for them. Becoming worthy of respect yourself. Ultimately, the goal isn't to live fan-free, it's to become a balanced observer who others find admirable for your clarity, competence, or kindness. Let people like you for the value you add, your craft, integrity, insight, or humor. Influence is healthiest when it flows from contribution, not charisma. So if anyone asks, who's your favorite person? Your answer should be simple yet profound: my future self. That's neither arrogance nor vanity, it's a statement of accountability. You're saying, I'm working on becoming the person I'd happily look up to. Practical exercise. At the end of this chapter, take a notebook page and list 5 people who currently influence you most: celebrities, leaders, friends, or mentors. Next to each name, write, what exactly did I learn from them? What quality can I practice myself? Is there any belief I've accepted without question? Rewrite your takeaways in your own words. When you reread that list later, you'll notice it no longer feels like worship. It feels like ownership. Admire freely, thank generously, learn relentlessly, but never kneel mentally. No one lives your mornings, faces your doubts, or pays your bills except you. So reserve your deepest loyalty for the one mind and pair of hands you actually control. When you stop being a fan and start being a student, you turn borrowed inspiration into personal momentum. And that, quietly, powerfully, is how you become the kind of person others look up to, not because you're famous, but because you're free.